Hey everyone, welcome back to part two of this interview series with the Serious creator and mayamada co-founder Lao. I am the other mayamada co-founder, Nigel. And yeah, we're going to get into this particular story, this new story that we are creating for this Kickstarter campaign. So if you haven't already, check out the campaign page and the rewards on offer. And please do consider supporting a campaign and sharing it with your friends and family and followers. That's the other F, friends, family, followers. So this is a story that has been inspired by the pandemic. And I say inspired sort of for lack of a better word, but we are here. We're here because, like, where else are we going to go? Really. So the pandemic has meant that kind of normal life for much of this year has kind of ceased to exist. And that has just had sort of obviously economic impacts that we've seen as a small business. I've had like major impact on the way we operate, and also sort of personal well-being has come into real sharp focus when we all have to face lockdown, at least here in the UK, for long stretches of time, sort of being isolated from people and not being able to do the usual thing. So my whole thinking behind doing this story was to, I guess, kind of allow myself to think through some of those thoughts and some of the things that I was seeing, and put that into a story that could help young people who are facing their own sort of disruption to life, maybe focus on sort of the positive outcomes and lessons that can still be had in times like these. So that's the background to the story. And I wanted to ask Lau, like, how has the pandemic impacted you? I know it's a big question, but what kind of changes have you had to deal with?
Well, I guess we'll start with the easy ones. So, um, I've been working from home, as most people have been.
Yeah.
I'm not a key worker or anything like that, so that's kind of been the thing for me. And to be honest, I don't like working from home much. I prefer to be in the office. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. So it's just been getting used to that kind of schedule. Like I actually work prior to lockdown. I used to work in the office once a week, and that was just about enough for me. But I kind of had to
Wait, you used to
quickly
work in
learn.
the office once a week or
Sorry, I used to work from
at
home
home? Okay,
once a week.
cool.
Um, I had to quickly get used to a schedule of what life would look like. So one of the things I was doing is I was getting up early. So that was a good thing because it gave me some opportunity to just do a few things. For me, I like to kind of do a little bit of exercise, read a book, pray, and then just kind of, breakfast and stuff like that. So by the
Mm.
time work actually starts, I'm in a good mindset and then I'm ready to go. Those have been some of the benefits. I mean, one of the biggest benefits for me has been just being able to spend more time with my wife. So like we don't really get to see too much of each other because of work, obviously. So, you only get the evenings and, that can also be quite busy if you're cooking and all this kind of jazz.
Mm.
So just being able to be around each other, has been really good. It's been a kind of a nice side effect of all of this. And going for walks as well. So we started doing stuff
Yeah,
like that.
the
Going for
park has
walks
been
every
just
week.
like buzzing since lockdown started.
Yeah, I mean, like we would always go out in our masks and like we stayed away from stuff like parks. To be
Mm.
honest, it was just kind of like just walks to off to somewhere in the distance and then walk
Okay.
back. Kept it real simple. Um, we actually only went to a park about I think about 3 weeks ago or so. We just
Okay.
kind of passed through, and by that point, lockdown was easing a bit. And yeah, there was loads of people there, loads of kids. They weren't much touching or anything like that, or being close to each other, but they were there.
Yeah.
So I mean, it it's been an adjustment, but I think we've kind of handled it all right. I think work's been probably the toughest part, just getting into a good habit, because it's very different when the people you work with are just like like you only really see them on a call. Thankfully, we
Right.
do one once a day, so we do actually hear from them, but we don't do video. So yeah, that's been a bit difficult. But I mean, for the most part, yeah, I've just kind of muddled through, and it's been okay overall.
Yeah. No, it's you realize how important it is to have that sort of face-to-face communication with like even people you work with. And when it's denied to you, then it's suddenly like, oh, okay, this is why we come into an office. I mean, I've been used to working from home, so that wasn't necessarily the adjustment. There's no real adjustment in that strict sense. It was more a case of how to operate as a small business that what I've realized depends a whole lot on being in the same space with people, whether it's through like workshops or events or our gamepad event. When all that stops and you kind of, at least for a while, have no business, what do you then do? So that's been like a major adjustment for me. And I guess, like you say, from this time, it's a challenge. It's been a real challenge, but you eventually try and look at some like positives or what can you do? Basically, like what can you do to sort of improve or at least even just cope with the situation, and maybe it sounds a bit cliche, but come out better on the other side.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's good. Good to hear. So yeah, I mean, like I say, this particular story is putting the serious characters into that particular scenario, and then I'm going to sort of, I guess, investigate how they would react. So as the creator of the story, how do you think the serious characters would react? Let's start with Blake as the leader of this gang.
He wouldn't like it. He'd be very vocal about how bad the situation is, and he'd be looking for solutions.
Okay. Yeah.
Just like, how are we gonna like get around this thing? How are we gonna get through it?
Yeah.
And most likely, at least if we're talking about Blake at the end of the story, because he kind of goes on a journey. If it's Blake at the end of the story, he'd probably want to hear from the team, like, what are we going to do, guys? If it's Blake at the beginning of the story, he's probably going to go off on his own and try and work things out.
Okay. So I should say that this story takes place after the events of Volume 1. So as you guys are watching this for the Kickstarter campaign, make sure you read through Volume 1 first, and then this new story.
Yeah, good shout. Yeah, I think he'd probably be more willing to listen to his team. Okay. In that case, yeah.
What about Nova?
I think Nova, I think he'd be pretty cool and he'd be all over it. He's already kind of spoken to some people. He's already got a few things in the works. Okay. So he'd be like, Blake, yeah, it's cool. We were ready for this sort of thing. So he'd be like he'd take it in his stride. And he wouldn't necessarily be so reactive. He's already kind of proactive with it, I think. Kind of ready to make a move. And probably I would also say, if he hasn't already seen the opportunities, he's also looking at like some other opportunities that they could use in that kind of scenario. Okay.
And who do you think, so there are a bunch of characters sort of in that team. You've got Blake, Nova, Sally, Darian, Clayton, Vermont. Have I missed anyone?
Yeah.
Who have I missed? I feel like I missed someone.
Rose?
Rose, yes.
Did you say Rose?
No, I didn't say Rose. So out of those, who do you think wouldn't handle it so well, at least initially? Because, I mean, I don't want to even say that like as a negative, because this is such an unprecedented situation that it's okay not to be okay, and that's something I also want to explore in the story. So yeah, who do you think like maybe wouldn't be as prepared or as able to deal with this initially?
I was thinking Clayton, but by the end of the story, I don't know so much.
Mm.
I think by that point, I think it'd probably be more Darian.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that too. But you know what might be interesting? And just for anyone watching, yes, we are brainstorming this live because at the time of filming, I haven't started writing this. By the time the Kickstarter's up, I will have started writing it. But as we speak here now, we're just kind of brainstorming. And you know what's interesting is you mentioned like Nova would be the one to sort of be more prepared and take it in his stride. But I think it might be interesting to have that kind of character, maybe not okay, and it'd be a surprise that, oh, we thought, so and so is always like so cool and calm and collected, and seeing them as not that, then like worries the other people. Because, you have those people who are like, we sort of depend on you for like stability and you always know the answer. And what happens if you don't know the answer, then we don't know the answer and what's going to happen. So I was thinking about that as well, just to throw that possibility in there.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that kind of mixes things up. And like, I guess Rose would be a good candidate for that as well, because Rose is supposed to be kind of like the eyes and ears and just kind of knows what's going on.
Yeah.
But if she's kind of in a situation where it's like, actually, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't look to me.
Yeah. Or even like Vermont as well, because I think out of everyone, he seems the guy with the plan. Like Nova comes across more instinctual, whereas Vermont comes across as like, I've planned for this. So he might be an interesting one to explore through that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I think, there's an opportunity to have a journey where he kind of comes back to himself, but initially is just, a bit here, there, and everywhere. Just
I definitely.
He almost has to be put back together, and is like, okay. I mean, after however many weeks, I don't know, and then
or 2 months, because I can identify with that journey.
Yeah, and then finally he's like, okay, I think we could try this and this and that.
Okay.
And the great thing about that is you could do some really interesting things with the story. So it's this idea of like, when there's a vacancy in any team, other people have to step up.
Yeah.
And make do. But then when maybe someone's returned, they can then kind of, I guess, take over from what the other team have done. Obviously, the team are now stronger for it as well, because they've learned some skills. So that's a nice kind of journey that the whole team can go on together. And also you've got the opportunity to show maybe a slightly darker side where people are expecting other team members to do certain things, but they can't. So they're frustrated.
Okay.
So
like a little tension.
You can have some of that. Yeah, just some tension to kind of show that, people deal with these things in so many different ways, and people have expectations, and when they're not met, they can be very disappointing. Because let's remember, like, obviously you have to read the first book, but they're still relatively a new team, so they have to learn these things.
That's true. Yeah. So this is like the ultimate sort of learning experience, and like even as you were talking about the idea of like expecting certain things from people, I was thinking about the way Marvel handled Thor across, well, I guess from from Infinity War to Endgame, but maybe even before that. But just his journey, because he's he's Thor, and then he fails enough times that it breaks him basically, and he goes in a direction that you necessarily wouldn't see coming. And I know there were certain elements that not everyone agreed with, but I just think the idea of having that character you just expect to be strong and dominant and everything just essentially like fall apart, and like you say, have to be put back together. I think that's an interesting kind of side to a character that's worth exploring. So Okay. All right. I'm also taking mental notes because, like I said, at the time of filming this, it hasn't been written. But so the other thing I'm kind of brainstorming on is the nature of the pandemic. So another thing, like when I'm in workshops and talking to like young people making stories, I sort of make a point of like research and if you're making a particular story, no idea is 100% original. It's you look at where you can for inspiration, not just in comics but other mediums and life as well. So I've been watching a few sort of pandemic films and looking at that side of things, and a lot of them tend to sort of go to sort of zombies. That's not because this is an all ages comic. Not that you couldn't do zombies in an all ages comic, but I wanted to steer clear of that. What do you think would be like an interesting pandemic scenario for Serious?
I think there was one idea I think I floated a while ago where there was this mist.
Oh
There
yeah,
was kind of like this mist that basically just took over, and you couldn't go outside without wearing like Wellingtons or something.
yeah.
Otherwise, you kind of caught a disease or something along those lines.
Okay.
And I kind of like that idea. Obviously, I don't like it. What I mean is, I think it's an interesting idea because mists are quite mysterious things. You don't know where they came from. You don't know where they're going, but they're just there. And yeah, it's kind of like the sort of thing. If you know there's like a mist and it can hurt you, you don't want to step into it. And yeah, and it's just all over the place. So I thought that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
To have something like that where the mist itself contains some sort of virus or kind of deadly attribute or risky attribute. And people kind of have to just deal with that. And it obviously stops them from going outside in some cases. And in other cases, people just have to be incredibly cautious. So that was one of them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that idea. And I guess, for the viewers, you're going to have to, well, actually, you could just check the page to see what I went with, what idea I went with. But, I think I like the idea of like, some kind of mysterious mist causing fear and panic, among people. So, yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to be back with our third and final part of this interview series. Please check out the Kickstarter page and consider backing. We have a bunch of cool rewards for you to get. And also, you can support us by sharing the campaign with your friends, family, and followers. So we are at mayamada on Twitter, at mayamada tees on Instagram, and we'll see you in a bit.